Okay. Okay. Hey, you guys. Thanks for coming to my presentation on dealing with the media after experiencing a cult or high demand group. I'm Dhyana. I'm going to tell you a little bit about who I am and why I'm talking about this and why I want to talk about this and how I have experience in this, and hopefully give you some tips, some information about, what to do if you're approached by someone, by a reporter or podcaster or news station, or basically anyone that falls in the category of media. And I realize that category is really, really big. So I try to specify throughout or ask me if you have any questions. So a little about me. My first career and educational background is in journalism. I went to journalism school and I spent about 15 years in newspaper reporting. It's a hard industry to get into. It's really competitive. They expect you to work for free part of the time, to try to get your first job, which really wasn't something I could do. I had a lot of student loans and not very much money, so I couldn't really do those unpaid internships. I ended up starting at the bottom and working in obituaries. I wrote obituaries. I did the community calendar. I was just like, please just let me write for your newspaper. And I finally did night cops. I was like the person sitting there at night with the police scanner who like ran out when there was a shooting or like a fire, and then I got to cover some arts and entertainment, which was really, really fun. I covered environment. This was mostly small to mid-sized newspapers in California, but I also went overseas. I worked in Cambodia for a while, a newspaper called the Cambodia Daily. A really good newspaper, unfortunately got shut down by the government in 2017, which is really a shame. And also, if you want to see authoritarianism on a horrifying scale, take a look at Cambodia and what happened with the Khmer Rouge after the Vietnam War. I was there in 2003, 2004, and covering all the issues that have come after that time. I mean, it's still ongoing. So it was an interesting time to be in Cambodia. I did a lot of stuff about labor, particularly child labor. And then I came back and worked for a legal newspaper. I covered civil litigation in the state courts. And then I became a freelancer. So some magazines. I also have a podcast and it's called Generation Cult. And it's an interview show about people who grew up in cults, and it kind of focuses on the transition out. So I'm really interested in people's stories, which are fascinating, but on the show, we like to talk about that period where someone got out and adjusts to the rest of the world. So I started that podcast in 2018. And it came out of my own project based on my background. I grew up on a commune, could be considered a cult. It's connected to Theosophy. It was a branch of the Theosophical Society that had several communes in Southern California, and some charismatic leader. Things kind of went haywire at one point, and some people moved away. My family stayed on the commune, and I ended up just taking off when I was 18. Went to college, it took a while to kind of, get my life in a smooth place. So after, being a reporter for a while, and I kind of had some space in my brain to think about, like, hey, what was that when I was growing up? I had a daughter, and raising my own kid kind of made me think, like, hey, when I was that age, like, I was taking care of someone older than me, and I was 10. Like, that was weird. Like, you're not supposed to do that. So I started doing research into this group I was raised in. I didn't even really know what the word cult meant. I wasn't even sure I don't know. I just wanted to explore the whole thing. So I started with interviewing people I grew up with in the group that I was in. I'm still in contact, or well, not as much, but they're not exactly happy that I've been super public, but I'm still in contact with people there. I was able to interview people. I dug up some old articles that came out, and I feel like I really learned about the group I was raised in, and I became just fascinated by this whole idea. What does it mean to, you know, have been raised in a cult? What's the psychology behind that? And so I kind of just, I thought I was going to write a book. I veered off into this other direction. I ended up connecting with ICSA and meeting all these fascinating people. And I started meeting all these other people who were raised in all these different groups and just having these fascinating conversations with them. And that's basically what led to my podcast. And I know that I've said, I keep saying that I'm stopping it. So a lot of people say, is your podcast over? It actually is still going. I have tried to end it a few times because it's, you know, it's a labor of love, but I don't know, it takes a lot of time and stuff. But you know, each time I do have people reaching out that say it's really helpful. Also, it's been a way for people to connect with me. And now that I've been involved in this space for a while, I have some really good connections. So people do reach out and I can kind of help get, you know, connect people with other helping professionals, you know. Here's someone you might be able to talk to. So it's useful. And yeah, I just, it's a good resource and I've kept it going. I enjoyed working on all of this so much that I even went back to school to get a psychology degree. So, so I really dug in. So I recently did the Salford coercive control, psychology of coercive control master's program. And my research focused on the relationship between media and cults. And I worked on a study, basically, how have people who have left cults, how do they react to seeing media about cults? How does it make you feel? Do you feel like it's biased? Does it make you feel bad about yourself? Does it give you anxiety? I gave a presentation about that a couple of years ago, I think at an ICSA conference online. I'd be happy to send you information if you were interested. It's also easy to find. And it was published in the International Journal of Coercion, Abuse and Manipulation too. So you can find it. I don't know, just not to trash my research. It needs more work. I came up with a new scale for people to kind of evaluate their experience with the media. I think if I was to do more with it, it would need more work. But there were some interesting findings regarding, yes, people do feel bad about themselves when they see media about their cult. Generally, that was one of the results. One of the things that surprised me was that it wasn't something that caused horrific anxiety. Like people didn't come out of their experience with the media with a real disorder, at least according to my pool of people that I studied. So there were some expected results, there were some unexpected results. So, so I'm really interested in this topic, and I'm coming to you as a fan of the media. For all its problems and complications, you know, it's how we get information. It's what we have. Like, so, you know, we have to work with it. I mean, I really believe that like ethical journalism, it shines a light on problems in society and it can lead to change, however slow that change may move. And you know, the problem is that people don't necessarily understand how it works, all the players involved, the processes. And so I'm hoping that I can, you know, give you some more information, maybe make it a little easier to understand what you're getting yourself into. And also, if you listen to this and you're like, no, this is horrible, I never want to talk to a reporter ever, get me out of here. I've also done my job because you will be making an educated decision, and that's what this is about. So So let's talk about why you would want to talk to the media. So, you're owning your story, like you're taking back your narrative. That's pretty powerful, especially after you've had a coercive experience. Let's say somebody has dictated what you've done or what you wear or how you eat, and like you're getting to own it, to tell what happened to you. I mean, that can feel good. You're getting to assert yourself. Also, can be a call to action. You're telling people that this thing happened. Like this happened. I experienced it. I mean, it could even stop further harm. It could get something shut down. Somebody could go to prison. Look at what happened with Nexium. And even if something like that doesn't happen, other victims could see or hear your story and say, wait, wow, I went through that. That's really meaningful to people. So that's worth a lot. Another thing people don't consider is that, well, let's say you do an interview, something comes out, there's not much of a response, you're kind of bummed, you're like, well, I guess that maybe was a waste of time. But, let's say 10 years goes by, and I know that's a really long time, or 20, and then somebody goes on some sort of fact-finding mission. They're doing a project, and they want to find out more about this group, and they come across something you contributed, and it just does so much for their project. I mean, that personally happened to me when I went back to research my group. I dug up these articles from 1989 that like no one had thought about. And it was like this amazing moment. Like it just like made my, I don't know, my project. And, lately, while I've been doing my podcast, I've been getting a lot of calls from people who have been working on their own kind of research projects, looking into their own groups. And so, I'm seeing other people do it. Other people go through like, hey, what happened? I want to look this up. So even just like finding something from a really long time ago, like you just don't know what could happen in the future. So this might surprise you, but there are some downsides to talking to the media. Owning your story and putting yourself out there is an upside. It is also a downside because you're vulnerable. It can be embarrassing. I mean, you're a person, like you get embarrassed. There isn't anything you can sign or say or do. There's just not one magical thing you can do that'll stop people from saying mean things or even suing you. Like people can do that for any reason. So, you're taking a risk. I mean, you have to accept that you're taking a risk. Also, yeah, people could just say you're lying. Like people do that, whether they actually do believe you or not. Another thing is, if you're talking to a larger, hard, straight news source, they'll talk to the other side. They'll talk to people in the cult. They'll talk to, so, like it's going to go a little bit differently than you think. It might not be all from your perspective. And then at worst, there's retaliation. People can be really mean. You just don't know what they're going to do. I don't know if this counts as retaliation, but one real concern that stops a lot of people from going public is they might have family who are still in the group, or friends, and they just really don't want to hurt those important relationships, and that's really valid. That's something to take into consideration. The biggest thing about retaliation, though, is no one wants to get into a lawsuit. I mean, that sounds terrible. That's how groups silence people. I mean, it's infuriating. It's a total abuse of our legal system, but it happens. They threaten litigation. They might not do it, but they threaten. Sometimes they do it. It can be effective. I wish it wasn't the case. I wish it wasn't like that. But it's something to think about. So, yeah. Okay, so let's say you've weighed the pros and cons and you're like, okay, I'll talk to somebody. Okay, so this is really important. Above all, who are you talking to? What media outlet are you talking to? This makes all the difference. Is it a, you know, mainstream media outlet? I don't know, that makes me a little more comfortable to talk to somebody that has, you know, solid editors and just procedures in place to deal with any problems that arise. And the story will come out probably more balanced. You're talking to a publication or a station or something that doesn't have as much of a slant, doesn't lean in a different direction. Just really consider who you're talking to. You know, there are lots of independent publications, shows like mine. You know, honestly, I'd be careful talking to me, because, you know, I work with an editor and lawyer, but I don't have a big team behind me. I don't work for some studio. So honestly, if I was gonna prepare for an interview with me, I would listen to a lot of my episodes to make sure I wasn't some weirdo, you know, who's gonna make you sound, I don't know, just some sensationalized story, you know, so really look into and think about who you're actually giving your story to, who you're talking to. Another factor is, have you gotten advice from an attorney? Sometimes that's why you're being contacted by the media. You know, one thing on a slow news day, I would go down to the courthouse and just dig through filings. Like, that's how you sometimes find out about stories. And you know, sometimes that's why somebody might be contacting you, and chances are your lawyer may have said, don't talk about this, or don't talk about these specific things. I think that you should listen to your lawyer. This is not the reporter in me talking, this is the person giving this presentation talking to you. I have had people literally come up to me in court, talk to me, and then tell me, my lawyer told me not to talk to you. Why would you do that? It's honestly, it's not my job to think about what random thing might hurt you in the future legally. Like, it's your lawyer's job, so listen to your lawyer. Which brings me to this, and this is a big sticking point when I say this. You really need to think about this. The media outlet doesn't work for you. You know, it might feel really collaborative. Let's say you talk to a reporter a bunch of times, maybe even have a drink with them. Like, it feels like you're working together. They're not your friends, and they're not working for you. They're doing a story for their job. They have editors to answer to. Other people work on the story. The story gets cut and changed and goes through different processes. You need to like, everything you say is not going to make it into the story. You have to know that it's not being made for you, it's being made for the public, and to think about that. So we're actually going to sit with that a little bit longer. So let's go to the next slide. Okay, so as I was saying, the person you're talking to has your own job to do, has their own job to do. Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everyone who works in media, like they're bad actors. I can speak for myself and my colleagues. I care a lot about doing a good job. All the other journalists I know, they care a lot. Like, all you have is your integrity. Like, the thought of writing some story that portrays someone inaccurately or is wrong is horrible. A day that you have to run a correction, even if it's for a little spelling mistake, is like the worst day. Like, they want to do a good, most people, I can't speak for everyone, but most people want to do a good job, but they have to do their job. So you need to kind of think about you and know that that someone else has their own job to do. So one of those things is that, well, first of all, if this makes you nervous, you can always say no. But when you say no, it does matter, and I'll elaborate on that. You know, nobody's required to talk to the media. Like, if you don't want to talk, like, don't talk. Just don't do it. But one thing that people really run into trouble with is they will go do an interview and then they'll be like, I changed my mind, take it all out. That doesn't go well. That won't go well for you. There's a lot of reasons for that. Some places have policies against that. Sometimes it's already gone to the other editors, it's already going to print or you know, on to the next stage. So it's just impossible. You gotta say something early, and that also applies to if you, let's say you want to give somebody information off the record. That's if you, I'm gonna give you this information, but you can't really put it in there or quote me, but here's the information and it's off the record. You've got to do that early. You can't go through a whole interview and then be like, oh, that's all off the record. It doesn't work that way. And as nice as some of us are, like if we did that for you, we might get fired. So sorry. So think about that. You know, going anonymous sourcing, same thing. If you don't want your name used, some places don't even allow people to do that. They won't talk to you if you don't allow your name to be used. Again, going through a whole interview and then saying, take my name out. Nope, I don't think it's gonna happen. And I mean, it might, there's always exceptions. Like this isn't like a broad everything. This is kind of a more general experience, but so just know if you need to have some exceptions, do it early. Do it early. Also keep in mind, and one of my friends kept saying this to me when I was chatting with her because I hadn't actually been in the newsroom in a little while. She was like, just tell them that journalists are people too. You know, like it's awful. You've worked on something and someone wants you to like go take it all out. I mean, that's mean. So yeah, just the person has their own job to do. So, all right, so you thought about all of this, and for some reason you still want to do it. I'm really glad. I want to. Like I want people to feel like they can talk and do this. So let's say you waited all and you're like, you know what, I'm ready. You still need to think some more. This isn't something you can just do randomly. I really encourage you to put some thought into it if you're gonna go public. Think about the boundaries you want to set. You know, are you ready to just speak freely? Like I'm letting it all out. I don't care anymore. Some people won't. Some people won't even talk to the media until like they're in that place. Like I'm ready to, you know, talk about it all. Some people aren't there yet, and that's okay. Be upfront about that. You know, I can't talk to you about these things. You know, maybe your attorney said you can't talk about these things. Say something about that. Chances are the person interviewing you will understand. What doesn't work out very well for people is being really vague and trying to talk around the subject. We don't know what's going on in your head, and when somebody starts doing things like that, it makes us more curious. So we dig in. It's like, oh, what's going on here? Like, I really want to know, you know? So you know, so be upfront, talk about it. You know, you can even ask some questions like, you know, you're not going to get a set list of questions. Some people expect they're going to get just a list and they're going to practice and then they're going to say them. And it's really not how it works. But, you know, you can get a general idea. You can talk to the person who's going to interview you. Hey, what's this going to be about? Like, what are you guys going to focus on? You know? And so that way you come in knowing, oh, they want to know more about the day-to-day life on the commune as opposed to the financial stuff. Like, you know, it makes you feel a little more prepared. This is another really important one. And honestly, this is what I do for anything that means anything for me. Just do research. You have an interview coming up. The place you're going to interview with, the person you're going to interview with, look up everything you can. Every stuff they've written in the past, you know, stuff the publication has done, get to know it. Get to know what's happening, even if it's a brand new publication, even if it's a film that you've never heard of, a person who's making the film you've never heard of, a documentarian you've never heard of. I don't know, still see if you can find some of their past work. It kind of gives you an idea of what their style might be, what kind of stuff they like to focus on. Also, research what's already out there. What have people already said about your group? That kind of gives you an idea of what the conversation might be about. Maybe there's some things that are really wrong out there, and so you're gonna go in knowing, oh, I'm gonna have to clarify this stuff, like I know this is gonna be a thing. Or maybe nobody knows anything about your group, so you know you're gonna be spending a lot of your time explaining. So yeah, just look at what's out there. One thing people don't consider, but this does happen more in a crisis situation or when and mostly when there's a group of people, someone appoints a spokesperson. You have a group, something maybe big has happened and there's a whole bunch of members of the media contacting I guess it's your family or maybe just the group of you who left. That could get chaotic. It can be really helpful to appoint one person in your group of people who's dealing with this, who's maybe a little less shy, feels a little bit better about getting phone calls. And it doesn't mean they're going to be the only person speaking with the media, but that makes them the point person. So that way, they're getting phone calls and then they can have someone else speak on another topic. And it kind of makes everyone else feel a little more prepared. They know like, oh, okay, I do feel like I can talk about this. They don't feel it's put on the spot. And it kind of helps both ways. That way the reporter doesn't have to call a bunch of different people. Like you go to one person and they can help you. I mean, it's what companies do. They have a PR person, I call a law firm or something, and I talk to their spokesperson or PR person, and they tell me some basic information, and then they say, let's get you to this person who can tell you more. It's really helpful, and it can just really help for both sides. Okay, so you're there. You're like in the interview. And this is gonna seem really just basic, but this is based on my experience. This is based on questions people have asked me. You're sitting in the interview, your adrenaline is going, you're nervous. These are some things to think about when you're in the midst of it. Answer the question you're being asked. I have had full interviews where I've asked someone questions and they just talked about whatever they wanted to. They didn't answer a single question. That story didn't work out. Like that doesn't work out for anybody. I know that you have a message. Why else would you be talking to the media? Like we know that you're not doing it because it's fun or you like us. Like nobody likes us. But yeah, okay. Sorry, give me a moment. What? That's the joke. It's like when you're a reporter, on one hand, you don't make any money, but on the other hand, everyone hates you. Especially the clickbait. Yeah, that's true. So yeah, as I was saying, so we know that you have a message you want to get across, and you might think the question that's being asked of you is really dumb. There's a reason we're asking. We want to know, and we're going to get to what you want to say. We'll get to it. So please really listen to what is being asked and answer it. And being vague doesn't help. When you answer a question, try to use descriptive language, especially if you want your quote to be used, your section to be used. There's more of a chance you're going to be part of it if you say something colorful. And that's also something to consider too. Know that if you say something really colorful, they're probably going to use that, like you're describing something, the leader wore a bearskin rug and roller skated naked, like when you say something like that, a reporter's going to be like, I am so including that, like just know that that's what's going to make it in. So know that everything you say is not going to make it in, but also be aware that anything you say can make it in. Oh yeah, don't block and bridge. Okay, so I did an internship at this PR firm, like right after journalism school, and they told you to do that. If somebody asked you a question you didn't like, you stop them, like, oh, I don't know about that city council meeting, but the bake sale was amazing. Like you block and go to the next thing. I'm saying that don't do that. It's not helpful. We know that that's what you're doing. It's really frustrating. Try to, if you're having trouble with the question, if you're uncomfortable, say so. Chances are the person understands. Like, again, we're people, try to talk to us. Also, if you don't know the answer to a question, just say you don't know. It doesn't feel good to say you don't know, but the last thing you want to do is introduce an inaccuracy. Basically, don't lie. Not only is it not nice, also, the truth usually comes out. We follow up on information that doesn't add up. And if I don't follow up on something and I miss something, you better believe my editor is going to try to catch it. And even if everything falls through the cracks, there are people at home who just for fun try to see what you got wrong. So, it doesn't usually work out that great for people who end up lying, and yeah, just don't do that. And yeah, be yourself. So, let's say you're kind of grumpy and gruff, but you feel like you need to be a different person during the interview, like a game show host type. Like it doesn't read that well, just be you. Like people appreciate that. Just like be your genuine self. Like people respond to authenticity really, really well. The public, they don't even know they're doing it. The public, but they respond to it. They respond well. So just like, if you're just like a happy-go-lucky person, don't act super serious, just because you feel like you have to. Just be you. It tends to help. And yeah, and I did make that last point. Remember, everything you say won't be included, even if you're sitting down for an hour or 2 hours. Really? I haven't talked for a long time. All right. Okay, we're almost done anyway. Okay, so even if you are really excited, you think that like, I got this is going to be amazing. Know that this is a stressful situation that you're getting yourself into. And prepare that you might have a negative reaction. It might even be re-traumatizing to talk about what happened to you. Take some time, check in with yourself before and after you do the interview. So how am I feeling? Do I need to just go sit by myself and look at a wall for 10 minutes? Go do that. Have a friend ready to talk to after you get out of the interview. If you're going to feel bad, like this friend who's really comforting, like, can I call you? I might need to talk to you, or a therapist, or maybe there's some online resources that you have. Even if you're not going to use them, having them ready to go is always a good thing. So yeah, just check in with yourself and know that it's normal to feel nervous. It doesn't mean you're going to do a bad job. It means you're a human being. So you get nervous, and people always feel weird after it. You always feel like you left something out. I always get phone calls after I interview someone. I didn't tell you this. Those feelings are so normal. It doesn't mean everything went horribly wrong. It's just something that happens. It is a stressful experience. It doesn't usually feel great the whole time. So really take care of yourself if this is something that you're gonna do. So yeah, so I was saying, it has its upsides and downsides. You don't know how people are gonna react, and I really just, if you do participate, like keep your expectations low. I know people who have gotten really excited and the whole project fell through, like it just didn't happen. That happens, or they got cut and they weren't part of it. Like it's just good to be prepared for something like that. Or maybe you are part of it and it's amazing, and it's this big deal, and that's fantastic. You just don't know. So the best thing you can do is be prepared and be honest and be yourself.